Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So it's a little past 1 o'clock, so I propose that we get started. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining this second edition of the EDMO BELUX Lunch Lectures. So for those of you who joined for the first time or who have already joined, these lunch lectures are a series of informal meetings, so gatherings on different research topics related to disinformation, hate speech, polarization, and digitalization. So during each lunch lecture, a guest speaker presents their work in a short 30-minute, 40-minute talk, after which we open the floor for discussion. And so for this second edition of the lunch lectures, we are delighted to welcome as our guest speaker, Brecht Castel. Brecht is a journalist and fact checker and an expert in open source intelligence, or OSINT. And so Brecht's presentation for today is titled To the Front Line with OSINT, and it will address questions such as, how can you do war journalism from behind your laptop? How can you debunk propaganda? And why does a journalist in Mali contact a guy in Belgium to check a viral video in his own country? So with this, I would like to welcome you, Brecht, and give you the floor for what will undoubtedly be a very interesting talk. So we'll give Brecht the floor for the next 40 minutes, and then we'll open also the chat for questions. So Brecht, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Tom, for these kind words. And if you're eating lunch at this very moment, bon appetit. We'll talk today about OSINT, and I'll give you a few cases where military is in the military sphere, and we'll talk of course also about the war in Ukraine. So I work as a journalist at Knack, which is like a weekly Belgian magazine. You can compare it with Der Spiegel, and I mainly work on the fact-checking desk. What are we going to talk about today? It's OSINT. And OSINT stands for open source intelligence. Basically, it means using everything that's freely available online to do some investigation. Those are techniques used by the police, by military intelligence units, but also by journalists or citizen journalists. So I'll mainly focus on how I use it as a fact checker at Knack. Let's start with this first case. Tom already put it out there. Why does a journalist in Mali contact me to help him fact check a video which is circulating on Facebook? So I got this question in 2021 from Umar Sankare, a journalist in Mali, and he said, like, this video is going around on Facebook here, and I don't hear people speaking in the local language, so the video is probably not coming from Mali, but we don't know where it's coming from. This is the video. I will not show it, but it's just a very quick video where you see a helicopter flying by. The helicopter is shooting, and we see people standing in front, filming it with their smartphones. So you see those small dots, which are probably smartphones. Well, this was the question I got from this journalist from Mali, this colleague, and I was wondering, like, how can I start with this? So that's also my question for you. So maybe just think out for yourself, or maybe you can put your answer in the Q&A. How would you get started with this? So somebody contacts you, there's a very blurry video, as you can see. This is the helicopter that we can see, like it's not very detailed. How would you start with this? If you can put your answer in the Q&A, then maybe we can see what are your ideas to start with an investigation on this. Normally, Heini from this InfoLab will check if there are some answers I can see. So I don't know if you can put them in the Q&A form. And then we see, yeah, I see some things coming in. For example, the metadata of the video file, which is interesting. So the metadata is, for example, data which goes together with the video, which shows when and where it was recorded. But unfortunately, this is a video on Facebook, and social media gets rid of all the metadata, so this is not possible in this case. Google Picture Search is also interesting, but the video is way too blurry to have an ID on this. And then the last one, also from Thomas, is a very good one. Ask a helicopter expert / military person. Well, that's what I did in a way, because I just sent out a tweet. This tweet, anyone with knowledge of attack helicopters in my Twitter list. I need some help with verification on this video. So indeed, like, I don't know the answer myself. There are a lot of techniques I can use, but I need some human source which can help me with this. So I put out this tweet, and in 15 minutes time, I got this message through a DM. So what you see is on the left, the blurry picture of the helicopter. And on the right, we see another helicopter, a very good picture. And actually, this is a Denel Royvalk. So it's a South African helicopter. So this person said, based on these blurry pictures, I think it's this type of helicopter. A bit of context. So the person in Mali said, like, this video is being shared as this being a Russian helicopter. Russia just has delivered some Russian helicopters to Mali, and maybe this could have been true, that this was a Russian helicopter. But now, after 15 minutes already into this investigation, somebody said me, no, probably this is South African helicopter. Of course, we have to verify this, because this can be true, this cannot be true. But based on the first things I got, this is not a Russian helicopter. Because I knew it was a Denel Royvalk at this point, or they presumed it, I could search to other videos from Denel Royvalks. And I found this video, which is like a military exercise at De Brug, which is close to Bloemfontein in South Africa. And then I could compare from the video on YouTube and the video under investigation, the horizon. And you can see the same kind of mountains. So we know the video was filmed at this very spot in De Brug. So we know at this point that this video actually is not shot in Mali, it is shot in South Africa, and we see a South African helicopter and not a Russian one. So with a few steps, with the use of a video on YouTube, with use of my friends and colleagues and citizens on Twitter, we can quite easily find the truth about a very blurry video. So I'll give you in this talk some more cases where you can see the power of open source intelligence and the power of open source investigations for fact-checking and for debunking. I'll show you a few real videos as well, which are always a starting point of my investigation. I mainly focus on videos and pictures. And this is one very interesting. So I'll show you the video first. You will probably not hear the sound, but it's not so important. We see this guy, he's talking in Russian. And you can see in the background some people in military uniforms. And the people who put this video on Twitter, he says, like, this is in Belgium. These are our Belgian people, our Russians in Belgium. And they are saying congratulations to Vladimir Putin, and they are shouting hurrah, hurrah, hurrah after this guy said this. So the question is this in Belgium? Who are these people? What is happening? That's what I started to investigate. So let's see. A first indication was the handle, the TikTok handle. So we can clearly see this video was not originally uploaded on Twitter. It came from TikTok. So it was downloaded there and then uploaded on Twitter. And of course, this is a very good indication of good starting point. So what did I do? I put this handle into Google, and it only gave me 2 results. So it was quite specific. And from this, I could see that this TikTok handle referred to Airsoft Belux. So it's not EDMO BELUX, it's like an airsoft group. Airsoft is a kind of military game where it's kind of paintball with another type of bullets. So we have some indication that this might be related to airsoft. This, of course, is interesting, but when I clicked on this link, I got this. This account is not visible. It's something that happens very often in OSINT investigations, that you find the source, but the source is deleted. So probably the person who put this video online, he says, oh, maybe this is a bit too tricky. Maybe I shouldn't have put this online. I'll delete this. But this doesn't mean that it stops your investigation. Maybe you know that Google works with a kind of scraping. So they go over all website and they make it searchable. So they have a kind of cache where they put this in, and I could find some traces of this deleted TikTok page. So this is, for example, what I found in Google Cache. You can see that there were some videos uploaded. You can see which one. You can see how much likes they got. We have some more information. So this we know at this point that this TikTok website really existed, and that this Batyap Punt Ear was actually related to an airsoft club. I could also find a deleted video where we see someone putting together his airsoft gun. So this is probably not a real gun because it's the airsoft context. And interestingly enough, we could see some Belgian number plates. As you can see here, I blurred these number plates, but this was a very good indication that this could actually be in Belgium. Again, this was a deleted video, but still I found a way to find it. Also, of course, the TikTok video itself was deleted because all of the account was gone. But on Facebook, I could find a link to this then deleted TikTok video, which showed me, which proved me that this video has existed on TikTok and that it was really linked to this account. We also see the hashtags Racia and Jubilee Semdesiat. At this point, Putin was celebrating his 17th birthday, so Jubilee Semdesiat really refers to this. So this also was an indication that this is probably a recent video. We can do some more investigation just based on what we see. That's usually how I work. Just look very clear, with a lot of attention to what you see. For example, we have this flag. This was filmed in selfie mode, so I had to reverse it. But then if I put this reversed flag into Yandex, I could easily find that this was a copy of the flag that was raised on the Reichstag at the end of World War II by the Soviet Union. So there's some kind of Soviet nostalgia about the people in this video. So it gives them a bit more context. But then the main question remains, of course, is this really in Belgium? Can we prove this? Well, the TikTok channel may have been deleted, but there were some videos on YouTube that were still available, and this was filmed at the same place. Like I looked into some details, and the colored boxes give you the details. So again, like it's in selfie mode, so it's reversed, which you can see it's really at the same spot. And this is actually at the airsoft terrain close to Namur, the Belgian city. So this is really proof that this is really a video filmed in Belgium. I found this quite intriguing and interesting, but I'm not the only one. Also, the federal police was and is investigating this. After I published my fact check with all the information I found, the police contacted me to give them even more details. For example, I showed you that I blurred some of the number plates. They asked me can you send us the picture without the blurred parts? So as you see, like it's this OSINT investigation, which is clicking through, thinking in a creative way, using some tools, is also the same way that the police is investigating, and even journalists can help the police in times. It could be that these are Russians just playing around, playing kind of baseball, but it can also can be radicalizing, so it can be dangerous. We don't know, but it's good that the police is looking after this. So as you see, we're still we were in South Africa. We're in Belgium. We'll go closer to the front line as this lecture continues. So let's look into this picture, which was going viral in the summer last year. Serbian Minister of Interior with troops. Check out the helmets. So as you see, this is apparently the Minister of Serbia. We'll verify this in a second. And we see the Z insignia on the helmet of a kind of military person. So this could mean that there are Russian troops in Serbia, which would be major world-breaking news, or something else could be happening. This could be a fake picture, that it could be edited. Always when I start, I keep all options open, and I don't know what will be the case. I quickly verified this, and apparently there, except from the red circle, which has of course been edited on the picture, it's a real picture, and the Z insignia was not like manipulated or something. So it is a real picture, but what do we see? Some people were saying that the person with the helmet is in fact the minister, the interior minister of Serbia. That's not the case. I quickly found a picture of the interior minister, Aleksandar Vulin of Serbia, and if we compare him, he's clearly in the picture, who is not the guy with the helmet. So this just a simple Google search, you find a picture, you compare, okay, this is the same person, it gives you some idea. Then I did a reverse image search as you do so often. And then I found that this has probably something to do with something that happened close to the Serbian-Hungarian border. There were a lot of refugees in this area and also people smuggling those refugees. And there was a shooting happening in these forests. And that's why the minister came there to show that they are present after this shooting happened. So because I found this context, I could find more reports on this. For example, I found the YouTube video you see on top, where you see a lot of vehicles passing by close to this village, and then I could identify, like, yes, okay, this is the same vehicle we see in the photo. Of course, I'm mostly interested in the people in the video. I found another video where we see coming out of one of these vehicles, again, the minister in yellow, and also this other person at this point unidentified. You can see he has the same clothes on. So we are getting closer to the truth. We're getting closer to the real context of this picture, as you can see. I worked together with some Serbian colleagues for this, and they could quite easily identify this person. He's like a local police chef. And as you can see, as a fact checker, we also sometimes have to body shame people. So apologies for this, but it's clear that this is the same person. So it's a local police chef. And then the most interesting person, of course, quite quickly we find out this is probably not a real Russian soldier, and we start looking into the Serbian military and the Serbian special police units, and apparently this is a Serbian gendarme. So we found this picture on Instagram, and we could compare, like, okay, he has the same kind of communication tools, he has the same camelback, and it's probably even the same guy, as you can see. So it's not a Russian guy, it's a Serbian police gendarme special unit. And then, of course, the helmet is the most interesting part, because as you can see here, he has a Serbian flag, which makes a lot of sense, but he has no Z insignia on his helmet. So what could explain this? You have to know that in Serbia, like 50% of the people are in favor of Putin's war in Ukraine. So it could be that he's just sympathizing with the Russian troops. And that could be really the case, because we found which helmet he uses, and there is some kind of Velcro on it. So you can quite easily change the insignia. So he probably had a Serbian flag, but he switched this to this Z insignia. And we also found this very Z insignia in a Serbian web shop. So it's probably very easy to buy it and put it on your helmet. Very interestingly, we didn't find the original picture in this one. So probably it was firstly published by the Serbian government, and later they noticed this Z insignia and they said, oh, we have to delete this picture, we have to put it offline. But even while this picture was put offline, we, as you have seen in the last minutes, we can still find a lot of information, and we can still try to reconstruct what actually happened. So I'll go over to the next one. I'll show a fragment of a video again. Let's see. It's this one. So we see some armored vehicles on a train, and the caption from Euromaidan Press is American infantry fighting vehicles M2 Bradley are spotted in Poland today. And they are apparently PKP, so a Polish railway company, is transporting these Bradleys towards the Ukrainian border. And me and a colleague, Lotte Lambrecht, we were asking ourselves, like, is this true, or is this not true? What can we know just from this video? At this point, this was earlier this year, if I recall correctly, we were hearing a lot about US planning to send armored vehicles to Ukraine. So it was not completely implausible, but this talk about negotiations and about people, the US sending armored vehicles was still ongoing at this point. So it would have been quite quickly that they were already sending armored vehicles at this very moment. So that's why we started investigating this. Quite quickly, we found out that this is probably really important. Why? Because you can see the PKP Cargo, which is indeed a Polish railway company, and we found this road sign in the green, which was really a Polish road sign. It was from this video impossible to really identify the location, so to do a geolocation, because there were not a lot of clues we had only some trees, there were no street signs and so on, but it's possible that this really is in Poland. So how to go further on this? We could also identify these armored vehicles, because are they really American? It turns out that they really are M2 Bradley. So this information, again, is correct. We could find a picture of an M2 Bradley, compare those pictures, and we can say, okay, this is indeed American military armored vehicles in Poland. That's probably true from what we see. When investigating this, we found a lot more of this kind of videos. So all over Telegram, Twitter at this point in time, there were videos circulating of tanks, armored vehicles on trains passing by. So we checked all of these videos, tried to find if they are recent, if they are old, and where are they coming from. In the end, we managed to geolocate those videos. As you can see, we have 2 of them in Germany and the rest are in Poland. So in these cases, we could find the exact location based on a street sign, based on some writing, because it's in a railway station and so on. So we could put all these videos on a map, and this gives a lot more context. As you can see, most of these trains were going from west to east, and they were going so in the direction of Eastern Europe. Are they going to Ukraine or not? At this point, we don't know this. But let's zoom in on the last video, the one in Białystok. If we zoom on this one, so I could again go to Google Street View. I found the exact location. So as you can see on the left, we see a screenshot of the video, and on the right we see Google Street View, and we could see in which direction the train was going. And if we put this on the map, you can see the train is going in northeastern direction. As you know, of course, your geography is probably better than mine. This is not in the direction of Ukraine. This is in the direction of the Baltic states. So this makes it more implausible that these trains with armored vehicles are going to Ukraine. What could explain this? Because this is not something you would expect. You would think if armored vehicles nowadays are driving through Europe, that they would go to Ukraine, but this was not the case. We quickly found out that actually there was a NATO rotational deployment at this time, which means that there are NATO troops at the eastern side of Europe situated, and from time to time these troops, they change. We found this video, which is published by the Dutch Ministry of Defense. I'll quickly show it to you. So this is actually the harbor in Vlissingen in the Netherlands, and they gave out some drone footage of these armored vehicles, which were sent to Poland or Lithuania. That's what was told. So from this video, we said, okay, maybe these troops could be the ones we see in our video. So let's see if we can prove this. Important to know is we see indeed an M2 Bradley. They are different. There are older models, there are newer models. On the top left, you see the A2, which is a slightly older model, and this is the one which the Americans said they would send to Ukraine. On the top right, we see the A3, which is a slightly newer model, and these are the ones used for the NATO troops. So if we can differentiate between the two, we know which one are going to Ukraine and which one are sent to Poland and Lithuania because of a NATO troop movement. And as you can see, there's some detail in the A3, which is the same as in our video. So this is a confirmation that these are indeed armored vehicles used for the NATO troop movement, and they are not sent to Ukraine. And we found some more proof, because if we compare the drone shots from the harbor of Vlissingen, then we can see there are some platoon numbers on these vehicles, and they perfectly match the ones on the train video. So this, again, some proof that these are probably armored vehicles going to Poland and Lithuania and not going to Ukraine. So as you see, again, you combine a lot of public available sources. You try to think in a creative way, like what can we find out, even if we cannot find the exact location in this case, what are the clues, the visual clues in here, and how can we debunk this claim or see if it's true or not. It could have been that we found proof that these are indeed armored vehicles going to Ukraine, but in this case, this was not what happened. So we'll go even closer to the front line. This will be like a bit more of a tense question. Is this a painting of a war crime? This was a painting made from a viral picture which was shared. I'll also show it to you, but I'll have to say that it's quite a sensitive material. So I'll point out when I show the real picture, so you can look away if you don't want to see it. So I'll firstly give a blurred version. This was our starting point. Here I blurred the burned body, which is in the picture. As you can see, you see some anti-tank obstacles. You see a kind of war zone-like place, and in the blurred part we can see a burned body. So I'll now show you the real picture. If you don't want to see it, look away for a couple of seconds. So here you can see the picture was going around on social media. We see some chains, we see clearly a kind of burned body, and that's all we got to start with. So now I'll again, every time I blur these pictures, so now you can look back to the screen. How were these pictures shared? What was the story behind this? So on Russian propaganda websites, also translated in Dutch in this case, we see that people are saying about that this is a Russian soldier, and that he's put there that he after he was burnt alive. So he was probably captured in a way, he was set afire alive, and then he was put there on display. In Russian propaganda, this was quite easily compared with what ISIS did, like the ISIS propaganda from Islamic State. For example, here on the bottom left, you see the picture we are talking about, and we see it being compared with real Islamic State propaganda of people set on fire in cages and so on. So it's really a very harsh, gruesome image, which was used as a propaganda. So is this a war crime or not? What was our main question of investigation? This would be a war crime if it was indeed some a Russian soldier captured, set on fire, or tortured in a gruesome way. Then this would be, of course, be a war crime. What also could be the case is that this was a body found, burned or not, and then it was just put there. Then it still goes into some, then it's still going against the war laws, because you should be decent to your opponents and just bury your opponents or give these bodies back to the other side. But then it's not a war crime. So it's very important. Is this person set on fire alive or not? And can we find out this just through OSINT investigation? To start with, we have to get the context. We have to know where it was, when it was. That's always the most important point. So for this, in this case, this was all the visual clues we got to find the location. For me, this was impossible. Like it's so hard. Like it looks so much. It could be Ukraine. It could even be not Ukraine. Yeah, we don't have a street sign. We don't know which city it is. It was very hard to start. Luckily, I also work together with a lot of volunteers. For example, GeoConfirmed, which is like a group of volunteers. We're just focus on geolocating these pictures coming from Ukraine. So they are so good in, based on very little clues, trying to find the exact location. And one of these volunteers, after some time after I put out this picture, like, I'm investigating this, can somebody help me? They found the location. Based on this tree, on this small little building, on some street signs and so on. Actually, this is close to Kharkiv. It's on the E40, so it's on the main high road, which starts in Brussels and goes all the way, starts in Belgium and goes all the way to Kazakhstan and passes by Ukraine. And apparently it's on a crossroad of this E40. So by knowing this location, it's the first step to really start investigating what's happened there. When we started this investigation, we also found this video. I'll show it for you in the full length because it's important to see it. At the end, you quickly see the burned body again, which is not blurred. So, but it's only very quickly. But I'll show the video to you now. Here we see the body. So this to me was very interesting because we can see the body again. And we found even another picture of the body also taken from a car. So at this point, we have like 3 videos or images where we see the same body. And it was indeed shared also on Ukrainian social media to laugh with. So here there was said, he opened the beach season in Ukraine near Kharkiv. So it's a very gruesome image. And it's also shared as a kind of Ukrainian propaganda, you could say, from, oh, look at us, how we captured this soldier and what we did to him. So it's very gruesome. By combining these pictures, I could know a few things. First and foremost, that it's a real picture. We know the location, we know it's been filmed a couple of times, so we can know, okay, this is real. Also, I had some experts telling me, like, this looks like a real human body. This is not a puppet. This is not something completely made up. I also could notice the shadows, which were in 3 times going in another direction, which means that the body was at least there one day, whole day, or these videos and pictures were made on multiple days, because the shadows are always different. This was not made at the very same moment. So I analyzed these shadows and I put them on Google Earth Pro. So it's like the image overlay. So because I did this, I could really see, like, where is the sun coming from. So I could see, like, this is the picture I used in my reporting, like, okay, the shadow is going from south to north, the other time from southeast to northwest, and so on. So we can show, like, this is a real picture. It was, and this body must have been there at least a day or probably a couple of days. Again, I'll point to this because the location is so key. It helps to analyze these shadows, but it also helps to put a lot of more context around this picture. Why is this? Because this is not the only picture or video that has been geolocated. This is a map from GeoConfirmed, this group of volunteers, and they try to geolocate every picture, every video coming from the war zone. And if by now we know where close to Kharkiv this picture was taken, this video was taken, then we can see what other footage has been taken there, and we can give a lot of more context. So, for example, I have this reportage from the BBC, which apparently was taken very nearby. So what we see here is the same spot I found out, and we see a BBC reporter going closer to more Russian bodies, and he's saying that these are Chechen residents. He has seen their passports, so he has a lot more context than I can have from behind my laptop. What is very interesting about this short clip is that it helps to verify when the events took place. So on the upper part, you see the Twitter video I've shown you, where we see the body, and in the part below we see the BBC reportage. We compare the visual clues. We have the petrol stations, we have the anti-tank obstacles, and we see at the Twitter video that there is a body, and we see at the BBC reportage that there is no body. So, which means that when the BBC was there, the body was not there. And when the guy on Twitter put this video online, the body was there. It could have been filmed before, but it narrows down the time frame of when this body was put there. It also shows that the BBC was not showing this. So that's also important, because if it would be that this body was there and BBC just didn't want to show it because it was too gruesome and was not showing how the Ukrainian soldiers get along, what they do with the victims, that would also be like a quite shocking, right? We also know from this geoconfirmed map that there was a sky report nearby, so I'll also show you quickly this here. So we see again some bodies of Russian soldiers, and here we see they are put in like a Z shape. So we clearly see they are like the Ukrainians are showing the bodies they made. And the fact that it's put in a Z shape also, of course, is telling. It makes more probable that there are bodies put on display. So again, it gives more context. A bit of background on this. I asked the people from Sky to de-blur these videos, and I got these de-blurred footage. We tried to compare if we could find the same, if we could show that the burned body was laying there, but we didn't find a match. So we didn't find if one of these bodies was the burned body. Of course, if this would have been the case, it would have been real proof that this person was not burned alive, but this body was set on fire afterwards. But we couldn't prove this. Again, this video we geolocated this. It was like 1 kilometer or a bit more from the scene of the burned body. So what was the conclusion of all of this? I also talked, of course, with some experts, forensic experts, and they said like it's not possible from only this picture to say if this person was tortured, yes or no. So what do we know after this OSINT investigation? The photo of a corpse on an anti-tank obstacle is real and dates from March or early April. That's because we could compare all the footage in the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv. According to the caption, it is said to be a Russian soldier who was burned alive. But to see the body of a Russian soldier is plausible because of the context. We have seen a lot of Russian corpses there, so that's plausible. However, whether the man was tortured cannot be determined based on online research. That's what some experts told me. And for the claim that the man was set on fire alive, maybe we could have found a video where this is the case, then this would have been real proof. But in this case, there was no evidence for this. So you can see, you can give some context, you can get closer to the truth, but it's not always possible to find the whole truth based on OSINT investigation. But still, I think this case shows quite well what is possible and what's not. This is a tweet from Elliot Higgins, the founder of Bellingcat, and that's also what he appreciates in this reporting. Like, it demonstrates how you can and can't find out from imagery like this, and how claims like these can be heavily editorialized by the people sharing them, even if they are loose. So for me, this was like good to see that it was picked up well, and that's also being very transparent in a way and showing what you can prove and cannot prove with OSINT, that's the way forward. So I would like to thank you a lot. This was my short presentation. I don't know if, wow, it was 40 minutes, so we have 20 minutes more for questions. And I'm very eager to answer all of your questions, so you can put them in the Q&A. Also point to my Twitter profile, where I post a lot of these investigations and I show you a lot of tutorials how to do it. I'm also on YouTube, and I can also say that at Knack we're going further in this type of visual investigation. So this year we will see a lot more of these kind of visual OSINT coming from Knack. So I'm very eager to hear your questions and willing to answer them.
Thank you very much, Brecht, for I think a very fascinating and a very powerful talk. I found it very impressive what you have shown today, and very happy to see that this type of work is also being done in the Belgian/Belux context. So maybe I can group some of the questions that have been already entered in the chat for you, and I think what I see for one is a couple of questions that are related to topics on artificial intelligence. So you presented a lot of work where you try to debunk whether or not images are real, and then also use other images as part of your investigation. So how do you think that the rise of these artificially generated images will impact OSINT analysis? So both on the side of probably there will be a lot more to be debunked, but then also how might it make that debunking more difficult, more easy? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, of course, these are fascinating times. I think we have never seen as much AI-generated pictures and videos coming online. And for now, they're quite easily debunked, but this becomes harder and harder because the AI gets better. I think you should always see this as a kind of cat and mouse game, you know, like the cat gets smarter, the mouse gets smarter, and it's constantly evolving. But we should also always like look at these new technologies as having positive and negative sides. Also, the AI gets stronger to create things, but the AI also gets stronger in trying to detect things. So there is, for example, a deep fake scanner, which works not always, but is quite good. But still, the best way is to really combine a lot of sources, combine a lot of tools, and see how it all works together. So I think there still will always be some human involved, and I think the human creativity and the human human ability to think in a critical way it will always be necessary, but this is definitely evolving. And maybe also AI will help us to, like, for example, write my text. I can use a lot of AI, which makes it more easy to do, so I can focus more on the investigation part. So we should not be too it should not always be doom and gloom. I think there are also a lot of opportunities coming ahead, but we already see, like we have seen I think a few weeks ago, this AI generated image of Julian Assange in a prison cell. Like, if you scroll through this and you see it passing by quickly, it really looks real, but by looking more closely, it's still possible at this point in time to really verify if something is AI generated or it's a real picture.
Yes, thank you very much. And so maybe a bit of a follow-up question on that is, so it seems that in this field of open source intelligence, there's the open source data that you gather, but there's also, I think, what seemed to come out of your talk, also an important community aspect to it. So networks of people coming together and addressing these topics. So maybe the general question there is, how do you navigate that landscape? So how do you determine first and foremostly what to investigate, then who to investigate it with, maybe, and then where do you find the materials, the sources, the data that you would like to want to use for such an inquiry? So maybe if you could shed some light on that, that would be
that's a very broad question, I would say, but of course, I monitor myself, so we have some monitoring tools at Knack to see what's going viral, what could be an interesting claim. I'm in a few groups in some Slack channels of volunteers where I collaborate with. For example, the people of GeoConfirmed, I talked about them. The good thing about OSINT is, you would say, like, how do you know which person to trust and which not to trust? The good thing about OSINT is I shouldn't trust the person. Like, they have to show me the open sources they used, and I can check and verify them. So I work together with literally people I don't know at all. I only have an alias. I know some guy is American. He doesn't use his full name. I don't know anything about him, but still I know he's a real good OSINT investigator. How do I know this? Because he sends me things, he shows me things, and I can verify them themselves. Because it's open source, because the sources are open, I can verify this myself, and I can work together even with people I don't know at all. And that's wonderful, and that's quite unique in the OSINT community, I would say. And it's a real privilege for me as a journalist to work together with people who, in some cases, are much better in OSINT than I am, or in some aspects of OSINT. And still, yeah, there's some kind of creative collaboration that takes place, and I think that's awesome.
And maybe to follow up on that, there's a few questions about the OSINT community in Belgium. The questions seem to suggest a little bit that people have the impression that it might be quite small still. That also in the field of journalism, maybe it's something that could be developed still further, or that maybe more resources could be allocated to this domain. What is your thoughts, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think certainly from a journalism perspective, we're quite late at the party, I would say. I think real good OSINT investigation are being done by Amnesty for many years, by Bellingcat, I mentioned them before, by some organization. I think only now in the last 2-3 years, journalists are being aware like OSINT is a big thing and it's important that we get involved as well. Too often I just read in a newspaper what I read the day before from OSINT investigations on Twitter. So I think a lot of people, journalists are leaning on OSINT investigations, but not doing it themselves. So that's, in my opinion, it's a pity, and I hope more colleagues get involved. Here at Knack, we have a few factors where really not only me, Lotte Lambrecht, Karin Eekhout, we're all very, we see how important OSINT is, so we really try to do this. The OSINT community in Belgium is growing, I would say. A few weeks ago, there was an OSINT Belgium meetup in a bar in Brussels. There was quite a lot of people there. I think more people are doing OSINT in Belgium than we imagine. Sometimes also, yeah, you have to know them, or you have to find the right people. But there is a lot of things moving. I think the OSINT community in Belgium is not so small as you would think.
Okay. And then another thread that I see a little bit in the questions is also maybe on the question of openness of information and of sources. Where do you draw the line in terms of what you can consider openly available information? Because I remember also watching, I think it was a documentary about Navalny that was on Canvas a few weeks ago, where they also showed some people from Bellingcat, and there, for instance, they also considered open information the information that they could buy from people working in organizations who were willing to, well, give up information because they were offered money, for instance. Or so where do you draw that line, and are there certain things that you, for instance, would have liked to check at some point, but that you were unable to check because the information wasn't open in terms of just being available online somewhere?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and a question I ask myself on a daily basis, I would say. In Russia, a lot of things are possible. For example, there you can buy list of passengers of planes. You know, like in Belgium, that is not possible. You know, if I would want to verify who was on this plane, yeah, I will not get this information, certainly not in a legal way. So most of the things I've shown in this presentation, I think all of them are really open source. It's just really social media, sometimes deleted social media, but still I can find them online. I don't have to do some hacking or some crazy things. But for example, which in the gray zone is, for example, satellite imagery. I have contacts at satellite imagery companies who have these satellite images for themselves. And if you want to have them, you have to pay them. but they also have contacts with media. So for example, if I'm a journalist and I ask, I need satellite imagery from this period, from this place, I can ask them and they will give it to for free. And the only thing that they ask is that you mention them in your reporting, which of course is like a fair deal. For me, this is okay, you know, like I as a journalist, I cannot pay sources. That's a very, very, very strict rule. Like it's something that's not like no way, not €1 I will give to a source. But for example, if these companies want to give the satellite imagery for free, there's a win-win because they get some mention in their article, and I have some really good, interesting source to prove that a building was bombed, for example. Then for me, yeah, I use this also in OSINT reporting, and strictly it's not OSINT because it's not an open source, and it's not publicly available for everyone. So yeah, it's there's a gray area for sure.
And again, maybe building a little bit on top of that, because maybe this is also something, if you talk about dilemmas or ethical dilemmas or decisions that you make, of course, this you mentioned in your presentation that, of course, the investigations that you can do with these types of data, they can be very relevant for law enforcement and so forth. How does that work? Do you well, one of the questions was, do you frequently get contacted by such instances to follow up with them? How can you, well, do you do that? How do you make those types of decisions? Again, how do you, yeah, how do you work together with those types of professionals? Basically, that's the question.
Yeah, I don't get these questions frequently because the most things I do is like debunking viral videos and pictures, which is a lot of times real like nonsense or very conspiracy theories, so it's not so relevant. In the case of the airsoft group, I was contacted afterwards, and there I gave everything I found because I'm very careful. I do some OSINT investigation, which is always stays on the legal side, but then not because I find something in a legal way, I will publish it. That's another thing. That's another question I have to talk. For example, I did some people in these videos, but I didn't put their names in the article because it was not important. I couldn't contact them for a reaction, so I didn't do that. But then if the police came to me and they asked me, can you give us more information? I did send all the information to them because I think that's police in Belgium is trustworthy, and I think they'll do a good job in trying to verify if these people are radicalizing or not, and if we should be careful. I think if I would come across some really illegal things, I would notice the police beforehand before publishing, but so far it hasn't really happened yet.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I think I tried to cover most of the questions. I maybe have one broader question to wrap up, because we have five minutes left. So I think what you've shown, yeah, it's really powerful what you can do with open information just from behind your desk, basically. And maybe the question that raises is, yeah, if you think about the state of journalism or the future of journalism in general, will this be the way forward? Because it seems, or at least it appears, that you can get quite far without ever even setting a foot in the place that you are investigating. So if you want to be a bit philosophical about it, maybe, so will we be able to ground all our knowledge online and through this open information at some point, or is there really no replacement for having someone actually on site, or yeah, being there to look at it with their own eyes in a way? So what are your general thoughts, maybe, if you want to, well, come to a conclusion on this question?
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. For me, this war in Ukraine is the most transparent war we have seen so far in the history of humankind, which is quite a big statement, I know, but I really believe that, for example, if is a bomb get dropped on a hospital, a few days afterwards, we have like a 3D investigation on what exactly happened, who was responsible. Some commanders are identified who have launched this bomb, and so on and so on. So this is amazing. But still, I think getting all the knowledge from OSINT, that's bullshit, you know. Like, we need boots on the ground, we need journalists who put their life at risk to go there to verify things, to see things. And the thing I see at the major news companies, for example BBC or CNN, they really combine the two in a very smart way. So they have reporters on the ground who take pictures of some details, and then they have people, OSINT people, verifying them at home, talking to more experts. And by combining the two, because if you're too close, you cannot see the bigger picture. But if you're behind your laptop, of course, you don't know what's really happening, how is the situation there, and so on. So I think OSINT is getting more important, and will still become more important, and also with everything what's happening with AI and so on. So verification is key. But we also need people who go there, who talk to people. We also need human sources. We also need people going through classified documents, and so on and so on. So it's just like one other tool in the toolbox, I would say, of a good journalist, of good journalism in general.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think with those closing thoughts, we can also wrap up this this lunch lecture. So it's almost 2 o'clock. So yeah, first and foremostly, Brecht, I want to thank you very much for what I think was a very fascinating talk, and thank you for giving us some insight in your process and into this field of OSINT. I think it's really relevant for yeah, all of us here, and for the work that we do. So we'll keep a close eye on what you are doing and then follow along. So I'm very curious to see what will come up in the future. I also want to thank all of the participants for the very interesting questions. I hope we were able to address most of them. So thank you very much for joining us for this lunch break. I also want to point out that next month we will have our next lecture. So if you already want to pencil that in your schedule, it's on the 16th of May. So it will again be at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then we will have Professor Eline Severs from the VUB, who will also present her research to us. So thank you all very much for joining, and we hope to see you again for the next one. So have a good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.